there's like two types of author, really. There's unpublished and there's published, you know. And when you're an unpublished author, as I was for sort of 10 years, what you have in your sights is to be published, right? This is the pinnacle. This is your Mount Impossible that you are climbing, this scree slope where you clamber up and then you slide down, and you get quite high and then you slide down again. You write another book and you get nearly to the top and you slide down. And you do that for a long time.
And you would hear stories of people writing until they were, 100 and finally getting their, not 100, but, to 90 and finally getting their manuscript published, and you would think, can I really go on doing this for 65 more years? And I think you almost have to tell yourself you would, otherwise you'd give up right away.
If I were not published now, I'd still be writing. I just wouldn't be published. I'd be doing other stuff to make money, but I would still be writing. To that extent, you write, I guess if you want to say, because I have to, because you want to. If you don't want to, don't do it. It's a dumb career choice in terms of setting it up and saying, I'm going to make me a ton of money.
The pressure of being an unpublished writer has more to do with continually believing that it's possible to be a writer.
Being an unpublished writer, I think a lot of people are skeptical whether or not you have any talent. Is your work worth reading? Because they haven't had a chance to see it in print yet.
You're sort of not done until you're published, it may have answered some of your own needs. I think writers need because they need to write, and it may have been therapeutic and stuff, but really writing it's very much a two-way, it's a conversation, and you haven't really contributed, I don't think, you're part of it until you are published.
Well, the very first time around, I had written a short story called Love Is Not a Pie, and the only magazines that I knew that published fiction were Esquire, The New Yorker, and The Atlantic Monthly, because I was an English major in college, and I didn't read a lot of short story none of that stuff. So I sent it to those 3 magazines. I got back 3 really nice, handwritten, encouraging sort of notes, which meant nothing to me because I didn't know that getting back a handwritten encouraging note meant anything except no, which is what it said, no. And then they said nice things. So I thought, oh, well, I guess that's not going to work out. So I went to the back of Best American Short Stories, something I'd actually never read, and looked at the place where they listed all the magazines, and I found what I thought was the most obscure fiction journal I could find, which was called Room of One's Own. It was a Western Canadian feminist fiction journal. And I thought, that's for me. Who else is going to be sending them stuff? It'll be like me and the moose.
I had the opportunity of having a year off, being on sabbatical. And in that year, I decided to take some art courses, and my wife urged me to take a writing course at Humber. And certainly I had never written a short story before. I had taught many and was in love with literature, but had never dared to write my own. And I took a writing course and was actually buoyed by my writing instructor, Anya Zado, to submit that story. And I did, and it was published. And within a 3-year span, I had certainly published in a couple of literary journals, and then someone took notice.
My history is theater, and so for me it was almost less publication and more production. So I remember when my first play, an excerpt of my first play, was produced at Buddies in Bad Times Theater, and I remember getting the phone call. I was in New York, and I picked up messages from a payphone, and I remember that moment of just such a sense of finally belonging inside my profession. And I lusted for this profession, like it was always it. And then that just progressed in increments. So the production then became a full-scale production, and then the play was published, it was incredible to have the object of the book in my hand. And then I had 2 other plays published, produced, and then having the novel published, which actually at Coach House Press, you physically become involved with the process because the press is on site in this coach house in an alleyway. And so I could go in and score covers and you know, cutaway paper and glue, and that was very thrilling for me.
My first 2 poetry books were self-printed, and you tell everybody you're very proud of yourself. You're now, you're now out there in print. The book is out there, and you don't mean it at all. You just really don't mean it. You're always wondering, why did I have to put forward that money? And when I finally did get a publisher, I got no advance. I've never had a penny of pay from him, and it doesn't make any difference. It lifted, I guess, my self-esteem as a writer. It's a sense that somebody else thinks you're worthy, because you can believe it all you want until somebody comes along and justifies that faith. You don't really you're not certain.
Just having a book, I think it gives me a lot more confidence to approach my next writing project. I'm not going into the project thinking, can I even write anything? I'm thinking, can I even write this particular story? So I guess it's helped me get over that crisis of who am I in the world, and what can I do, what can I contribute, and I know that I can write a book now, and that it's good enough to get published and to have readers.
And when you got to that pinnacle, you know, and you're standing on that little mountaintop, actually there is a whole range of mountains out in front of you which is getting established, because you realise that yes, you've got there, but you've got to carry on, and you've got to make a go of this, and you've got to have a second book that is as good as, if not better, and then a third book, and a fourth book, and a fifth book, and you've got to carry on and on and on.
But then you're in this world, and you're meeting people that you only knew between covers in that context, and now you're speaking to them, and you're interacting with them, and that's truly a gift. So I'm still learning, and I'm still kind of getting used to the idea that I'm part of this community, and it's a wonderful community to be part of.
In the beginning, when I was writing my first book, and it took a long time, it took 7 years, I had no idea how it was going to go, or even if it was going to have a life in the world. So I was writing with this complete abandon, really.